afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone. I'm Brad Garlinghouse. I'm the CEO of Ripple. Blockchain and crypto use cases like cross-border payments are firmly outside the sandbox stage. And more recently, things like NFTs have continued to push crypto into the mainstream consciousness. It's very clear to me that different blockchains have and will have different use cases. There are going to be a lot of winners at the end of the day. This is and will be a multi-chain world. It's all about unlocking boundaries. We're here today because we believe in bridges between traditional financial systems and the new world of crypto-enabled systems, not boundaries. This is about expanding access to the global economy for all by interconnecting previously siloed systems and walled gardens.
RippleNet was designed so that customers seeing the benefits of our fiat-based network could flip the switch to ODL once the market was mature enough. And this is exactly what's happening. RippleNet was designed so that customers seeing the benefits of our fiat-based network could flip the switch, flip the switch, flip the switch, flip the switch.
Essentially took this class and started spending a lot of time with 𝗕_𝑑 and kind of hearing a lot of his thoughts on the space. It really kind of dawned on me that this was much more exciting as just like a fundamental primitive for rebuilding the way we do finance. Like I remember in particular, if I could like highlight a aha moment of sorts, it was like realizing that using the traditional banking system, if you wanted to send money to Zimbabwe, that could take up to a week to clear, depending on the method that you use. Whereas you have this kind of like, albeit primitive and immature technology, that lets you do it in like 10 minutes or less. And that's just like a really powerful idea when you think about where that kind of goes, you know, in the limit. And so yeah, I would definitely place a huge amount of credit on 𝗕_𝑑's shoulders in terms of kind of inculcating me in the philosophy of the space.
Yeah, we used to call that red pilling someone from, you know, the Matrix, where he's like, do you want to take the red pill, it'll change your life forever? Do you want to go back to the life you've always had? And sometimes people, when they get in the rabbit hole of cryptocurrency, they're like, they just can't get out, and they get red pilled. So.
Check.
Comms working fine, Lab.
Copy that, Tanaka. Spartan Buck online and ready.
Spartan Vale online.
Weapons free. Contact.
Our mission at Ripple is to create something we call the Internet of Value, and I'll spend a few minutes talking about that in just a second. I think we leverage the blockchain, we leverage blockchain technology. As Patrick was saying at the start, everybody wants to talk about blockchain. The hype around blockchain is really off the charts, and having enough gray hair to have been through Web 1.0, we saw, well, those of us that were around, saw pets.com, we saw WebVan. 90% of the companies that just put a .com after the name didn't really need to, or maybe they needed to, but they did it in the wrong way. And having kind of been to this movie before, I see a lot of the same hype existing around the blockchain today. I think it'll be as impactful as the internet was impactful for society. I also think that there is a lot of stuff going on that doesn't make any sense, that doesn't require the blockchain. A database often works just fine for a lot of the things people are trying to do. And so what I'd like to highlight as we chat today is how, at least from my perspective, Ripple is tackling a very specific real-world problem and doing so in a way that I think is going to make a really dramatic impact.
Our next keynote speaker is Mr. Naveen Gupta, Managing Director, Middle East, North Africa, and India for Ripple, the leading blockchain-based global major. He has extensive experience in global transaction banking, payment, and cash management, and strategy planning following nearly 2 decades working for HSBC and Citigroup across the US, Hong Kong, Japan, Taiwan, and India. Now, during his tenure as head of payment and cash management for HSBC Japan, the business was transformed and voted the #1 cash management bank in Japan by Euromoney. He was also the chief architect of HSBC's global initiative on working capital and liquidity management, and in 2008 was recognized as one of the 50 most promising young leaders in Asia-Pac by the Asian Banker. Prior to joining HSBC, Naveen worked at Citigroup in San Francisco as a global relationship manager for technology, media, and telecommunication clients. He joined Citigroup as a management associate shortly after graduating from the Thunderbird School of Global Management in Arizona. He's a former board member of the National Payments Corporation of India, NPCI. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Naveen Gupta from Ripple.
So let's talk about globalization in general, right? So globalization has essentially 3 legs. There was something that happened about 70 years ago that made globalization of goods possible. What made globalization of information possible? The way we are able to send emails to each other, we are able to read websites, we are able to know any information from any part of the world. I mean, I think this is very easy. Everybody will be able to tell that. What made the globalization of data possible? It's the humble internet, right? That we use all the time. We have a phone in our pocket and we are able to access every information, every ticket, every hotel, whomever you want to, through this data. But there is a third leg of globalization that we feel is missing today, right? Which has not really happened. It's the globalization of money. That means if you needed to move money from place A to place B, it still takes 2 days. It takes sometimes 5 days. Sometimes your money gets lost in the middle when it's moving cross-border, right? You have no idea when it has reached the other person. And a lot of time we don't have the transparency. So for example, lots of you, when you want to send a wire transfer overseas, you would not know how much will it cost before it gets delivered to the final beneficiary in the currency that the beneficiary is expecting. So let's assume, let me ask you a very simple question. How many of you, there's a bottle of water on everybody's desk, right, on everybody's table. How many of you will go to a supermarket and buy this bottle of water without knowing what the price of the water bottle would be? How many of you will do that? Right? Most of us would not, right? Because we want to know what the price of the water bottle is before buying it in the supermarket. But today that doesn't happen in the wire transfer. You essentially send your Omani Riyal. You don't know how many Kenyan shilling will the person get it in Kenya if you're trying to pay a supplier, right? It's only after the fact, after 1 day or 2 days, of course you will have your debit in the Omani Riyal, but you would not know how many Kenyan shilling will get delivered on the other side. It may take 3 to 5 days. Sometime it gets lost. This is Swift's own published error rates. Between 4 to 6% of the transactions need some kind of a manual help or have some kind of an error which needs to be fixed before money gets delivered on the other side, right? So to my mind, it is exactly the same in terms of the friction, in terms of the error rates, in terms of the difficulty that is holding back the globalization, the third leg of globalization, that means transfer of money. And that's what Ripple is here to solve. We are not here to make small changes to the existing technology, but we are here to make a dent in the universe by making sure that money is able to move exactly the way an email moves today. That you should instantly able to transfer your own legal money, which is fully KYC'd, which is fully regulated, which meets all the AML and the compliance standards set by the regulator in your country, but it should be delivered instantly on the other side, almost like what happens in WhatsApp. And if you look at today's generation, that's what they're used to. They're used to instant gratification.
Dr. Halsey, Captain Lasky would like a word with you.
It took you long enough.
Is there a piece of technology in fintech that you could think would be most disruptive?
I think we are about to see massive disruptions, but clearly the way in which the new technologies are lowering the cost to make financial transactions more accessible, even in very small numbers, for people who do not earn much, who do not deposit much, and who do not borrow much, and how those technologies can actually have a track record of the credit history of somebody in a very short while, and then be able to direct those people towards the best use of their money, I think is already massively disruptive.
Why did we drop out of slip space? Good job, Ellen. We may have been safer on the Ark.
Responsibility is shared, makes teams work best, same with parties. And goals should be shared. Everyone wants to kill the boss. Oh, sorry, for those of you not familiar with MMORPGs, a boss is an especially horrible monster that everyone fears and wants to kill, but it's also a term in MMORPG.
So listen, given my background, if you look at CLS or you look at Swift and other innovations, since we're, the R3 Quarter platform works for all industries, okay? But we're talking about finance here. It took those organizations over a decade to get live. I had a treasury platform that I started at the same time as R3 called Liquidity Edge, which I sold to a company called Market Access. That took 6 years and it's only getting traction now. So I think the big thing for us is that we made design choices around privacy, scalability, and security. We avoided the drug of the hype of trying to get into public blockchain. People are now realize that the public blockchain was a mistake. They're trying to implement privacy on top of it. People are now concentrating on the environmental impact of proof of work and the like. So it's playing to our strength, and it's getting real this year. One thing I want to mention is the entire Italian banking system will be on Corda for interbank payments this year. Hundreds of millions of transactions will be transacted on Corda this year. So it is getting real. It's been 6 years. That feels all right to me.
Sir, we've searched everywhere. There's nothing here.
It's here. Find it.
Yes, sir. Widen the search.
As the beneficiary, Company A can choose the currency in which they'd like to be paid. In this case, Company A chooses XRP. To update the obligation, Company A will get the current exchange rate from an exchange rate oracle, and then update the obligation with the new currency and amount. Having made these changes, Company A obtains a signature from the notary service and distributes the obligation to Company B. Corda Settler also allows users to add additional terms, such as the desired payment address on the XRP network. Company A updates the obligation again and distributes it. Company B is now ready to settle this obligation, and so initiates a transaction from their XRP node. This obligation can be settled in one or many transactions.
No. Impossible.
Impressive.
If I'm right about micropayments becoming like the thing, there's going to be a massive revolution in the way software interacts with money, and that's going to be a tremendous opportunity. That's going to be a whole new multi-billion-dollar industry. Over 1 billion micropayments were made last year just by web monetization. So the technology works today. It's not 100. There's a lot of stuff missing, just like the early days of the internet, but the opportunity is very clear. The money is routed through connectors. These protocols can connect digital assets with traditional systems seamlessly. They work just fine regardless of the underlying ledgers, just like IP can go over any lower layer. And this is an open standard, which is what we need. Like, you wouldn't want to integrate with the internet if every website used a completely different protocol, every data provider. There is a standard. There is a neutral standard that doesn't specify anything more than it has to.
to, all of us, contribute to the creation of the internet of value, but we need to avoid to contribute by adopting an old mindset that comes from the old capitalist model. We need to avoid to make private profits and to extract revenue from the system. We need to think of the internet of value as a public good, and if this public good is healthy and grow, all of us will benefit.
There is no escape.
Can control the price to some degree because ultimately the Ripple community has so much power, no?
No, I mean, if you look at the correlations between XRP and most of the crypto market, or what are often called the altcoins, you see a very high degree of correlation. You know, Ripple can't control the price of XRP any more than, the whales can control the price of Bitcoin. Some of these markets, particularly smaller tokens that are, have a lower market cap and lower float, if you will, they are at risk of people manipulating them. But, you're talking about XRP trades, order of magnitude $1 billion, according to CoinMarketCap, trades, on an order of magnitude $1 billion a day of activity. So I don't think anybody's in a position to really manipulate those prices.
You disappoint me, Ben. Perhaps you are not as strong as I had hoped. Now, your failure leaves me with no other choice but to destroy you. It is pointless to resist.
People who just talk about blockchain are talking about something very interesting, but it's a piece of enterprise technology that's an advanced database, and a private blockchain unconnected to the global, to the Bitcoin or another digital currency blockchain is the equivalent of the intranet. Remember we had intranets to begin with, where it was really cool. You could do internal communication with people in your own companies, but it wasn't really until those intranets were connected via the internet protocol to other intranets to create the World Wide Web of intranets called the internet that the world changed. The world is going to change in finance when we connect the private blockchains via the Bitcoin or Ethereum or other protocol to the other blockchains in the world. Have a global blockchain that's the World Wide Web of blockchains that'll fundamentally change the way in which not only do we move value around the world at the speed of light, but also in which we actually fundamentally change the way in which we compute, because it's the fourth computing paradigm I've experienced in my lifetime, the decentralized computing paradigm. That is the vision of where we can really go with this. That's transformational. Now, the first step will be the intranets, the blockchains, as those get deployed. But that's not the end point. That's just a first step.
Now, when you compare across the world of digital assets, you can see that they're very different. I think what we've seen in the trading in the last 90 days, where XRP's value has actually increased and everything else has collapsed, you really do see some differentiation in the marketplace because, indeed, these digital assets are different. The cost per transaction for XRP is significantly lower than Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin or Ether or certainly Bitcoin, which is much more expensive. The transaction speed is enormously faster because XRP is really focused solely on the transmutation of value, that a transaction can happen in 3 seconds. And indeed, there are so many transactions, there can be 1,500 transactions a second. Bitcoin can only handle about 32, Ether about 16, and so on.
Sir, we still found nothing. Awaiting orders, sir. Sir, I'm gonna report to the general hall.
You know, I have said on a couple of occasions that I see where Ripple is today with payments analogous to where Amazon was with books. The name of Amazon in 1997 was not Amazon. It was Amazon Books. They were a bookseller, and they were a fabulous, fantastic bookseller. And you know, and obviously Amazon has demonstrated that, you know, by building some really robust core infrastructure, they're able to expand and to do other things. And certainly, while I'm incredibly pleased with what we're doing in payments, and that is a massive opportunity, you know, we have aspirations over certainly a 10-year arc of time to do other things also.
What the hell is that? A portal! Halfway to another dimension!
Do you think it's sort of definitely going to happen, or do you think that
Oh, absolutely.
Why do you think? You think there's the demand out there for this sort of thing? Or do you think it's just there's so much money being put into it by...
No. It's all based on the demand. But I can't use some mathematical proof to show you there's demand. At the heart of it, there's intuition here. In the same way that we bet our company on Windows, we're betting our future on our vision of the information highway and spending over $100 million a year and putting all of our reputation on the line, that there will be a lot of highway activity that's important and that our software will be a major part of that.
I want to know. I want to know. Tell me. I'm ready. I want to know.
Ripple is really meant for transactions, not store of value, but transactions. It has a higher throughput than Ether and Bitcoin. It's not as high as, say, Visa, but it's in between. And so it's meant for transactions. Ripple valuation is done on top of what is considered the XRP in circulation as opposed to the XRP in the vault. At the end of the day, sometimes the total float of Ripple is worth more than Ether. It's happened for 2 periods of time in the last 2 years. And sometimes Ether's more than Ripple. So all I know is that if I have quite a bit of either one of those three, I'm kind of in the money.
No more!
that in the creation of the technology, Satoshi figured out a way to attach value to it. If you could have attached value to TCP/IP when it was first created, and you could have bought the packets with hope that someday they would invent, I don't know, Instagram, it was quite a long ways between the invention of TCP/IP and the creation of all the things that the internet could do and the packetized networks could do. I think you see the same thing with the technology of blockchain. So yes, so the movement of money is an obvious thing. Libra wants to do that. Ripple's doing that today with XRP, helping move money very quickly, very cheaply for existing financial institutions, whether it's companies in the remittance business or banks and what have you. But I think you're going to see a lot of other things, and I think fairly soon, because companies have been working on this for so many years, but they're just not there yet. You're going to start to see the emergence of the use of the technology, and I think that's when the real value will ascribe to cryptocurrency.